Very good afternoon, everyone. So let's continue it with the dynamic models that yesterday we are studying. Yesterday we studied this COIC approach. So in dynamic models, okay, but it's an important class. I have a demonstration with this data that how you apply these methods with the dynamic models. But anyhow, okay. So in dynamic models, the dynamic thing about it is about the lag. Now, in this particular process, we have two important questions to answer. First, how we incorporate these lags into the model. Second, length of the lag. Now, to answer these two important questions, let's say for this first, I'll taking the case of length of the lag. For length of the lag, we have these three approaches: ad hoc estimation, COIC approach, and then we have Elman's approach. I'm talking about dynamic models, AR model, and distributed lag models. So what are the differences in the different approaches? In ad hoc estimation, keep adding the lag values until it gets insignificant or it will change the sign of the coefficient. In COIC approach, it's generally y(t) minus, it depends on the coefficient, that what coefficient we are taking, and y(t) minus 1. And this is generally a, now with the coefficient might be a lambda or 1 minus lambda. That depends upon a situation. In Elman's approach, it's different. It's different than this ad hoc estimation and COIC approach. In Elman's approach, the criteria is R-square criteria. These three criteria we have to select the lag length in simple basic dynamic models. Like, let me give you this COIC example first, that how in the COIC they are taking the lag length. Actually, they are taking y(t) minus 1 in place of all the lags where we have to take a lag of the x variable. That's the COIC approach. This one. So you have to subtract some coefficient of the y(t) minus 1. Means this is the answer to lag length by a COIC approach. And in Elman's approach, you have to follow the R-square criteria or model selection criteria that we used, this AIC and BIC. That's what we used in Akaik's information criteria and Schwartz information criteria in the model selection criteria. This is the three different criteria to answer length of the lag. But these three solutions again have different problems. It's not that we have answer to these solutions. Like in COIC approach, the problem is one, autocorrelation, another covariance between YT and UT. It's not zero. In ad hoc estimation and Almond's criteria, there is a problem of multicollinearity. This is the answer to length of the lag. Then another important part in this particular case is incorporate lags in the model. That how you incorporate lags in the model. Is it that COIC again? I'm just going to discuss two different approaches in this criteria. Although we have discussed COIC approach, then partial adjustment model, adaptive expectation model, then similarly there is Allman approach. Then there are other models like Jorgensen's model, Kagan model, Pascal's model, and combination of adaptive expectation and rational expectation. So there are various approaches to incorporate the lags in the model, that how you are incorporating lag in the model. So these two parts you have to understand. In this part, the main question is length of the lag. How many lags you want to incorporate in the model. In all this background, in all these models, in background picture, the method we are not changing the method is only so far OLS. And if we try to solve these problems like autocorrelation and all, then it might be GLS, generalized least square. But more or less in all these cases we are using only one methodology, that is ordinary least square. But so far we are only dealing with the simple dynamic models like autoregressive and distributed lag models. But it is not that these are the only models. Means in dynamic models, there are DSG models. Again, DSG models are with linear and non-linear. So there are varieties of models in the dynamic models. So far, we did this ad hoc estimation, COIC approach up to some extent to answer this question, length of the lag, and how we incorporate lags in the model. Like in COIC approach, the assumption is that impact of lag will decline geometrically. That is the COIC approach. So any one of you have doubt in these three concepts, geometrical decline approach, COIC approach, how we incorporate this length of the lag with the COIC approach, and ad hoc estimation. Any one of you have doubt in these three parts? Now I hope you all are aware that what actually we are doing here in dynamic models. So far this is not in a content, means I'm not covering in this particular part except for these two models. that we are doing currently, this basic models in dynamic process. Anyone of you have doubt in ad hoc estimation, in COIC approach, to incorporate the length of lag, and to answer it how we incorporate lags in the model, like this geometric decline model? Anyone, any doubt? These two parts I'll discuss later on, that how it create a problem of autocorrelation and this covariance. Means results are, the major consequence is that results are biased and inconsistent. Okay, thank you so much, Sadiq sir, for replying. Okay. Yeah, one another important thing. In all of these parts, like we did simultaneous equation models, then MLE models, there is no limit to these parts. Means that you have to understand that because of limitation of time and sources, I'm only able to give you some glimpse about the basic background about these fields of econometrics. Basic econometrics generally we all are aware, like till the autocorrelation, multi-hetero and OLS methodologies. But after that, uh, these fields will change with the change in the nature of variables. Like when we have more than one equation, these structural equation models like SCM models. So in SCM models, there are the basic methods I told you, like ISLS, recursive model with OLS, 2SLS, 3SLS. But still, there are many other things like LIML, limited information, maximum likelihood estimation. The derivation for the 3SLS, because 3SLS is not like a 2SLS or ISLS. In 3SLS, this is a simultaneously unrelated regression method that they adopt in that particular process. It is more or like full information maximum likelihood type of method. So for that you have to, if any time you are applying any of that method, you have to go that in a detail. But at least after attending these sessions, you have some idea about the background, that okay, these are the structural equation models and these are the possible methodological solutions because of these specific reasons, that why we apply OLS, because if it's exactly identified, we can apply ISLS. If it's over identified, we have a 2SLS. But still, if you want more consistent results, you can go to a 3SLS. Then limited information maximum likelihood method. That method is different, because if there is some problem of normality, that still remains there with the 2SLS and 3SLS. So you have to go with the LIML method. Then uh, it might be that R square is missing in your stata results. It might be that your R square is in negative in stata results. So for that, you have to go in a detail that why that thing is happening. Means in any specific topic, there are n number of things that we have to do. Because of the time constant, I'm only able to give you idea about the basic things that are requirements, like to understand these MLE, SCM, dynamic models, panel data, time series. The base is the basic econometrics, right? Similarly, in these individual branches, there is a some base that we have to first understand. Then only we can learn more or some specific topics in that particular field. So at least after attending these sessions, you have some idea about the that particular content, that okay, this part it belongs to this particular field of the econometrics, and we have to look upon these specific topics to understand these models. That's what my purpose in this particular series. Maybe in future I take long series, or maybe we will design some course which cover specific fields in a detail, like only dynamic models for 15 days or 20 days, only MLE models in a detail. Maybe that, but that's all in the planning process. So far, we don't have any source for that, because that needs some funding to make that content. Still, we are trying to do that. But at least now you have some idea. Similarly, in this dynamic models, generally in these models, like in MLE models, then this SCM and then dynamic, I'm taking only 4 or 5 classes, but now you can understand. But there are many other things besides these specific fields that you have to study in detail. Then only you have this confidence that, okay, now you can apply dynamic model. There are n number of things. And in all other important things, there is no one-to-one relation here. Like in these three approaches, it's not that you have a one answer, okay, this is the situation, I apply COIC. If this is the situation, I apply Almond, and this is the situation, I apply ad hoc. No, you have to do this hit and trial experiment with all the approaches, and it is in the many cases, like in SCM, you have to do this experiment with the 2SLS, 3SLS, and LIML, and then you have to make sure which results you think is better for your particular purpose, and that you have to interpret and show in your final results. Similarly, in logit and probit, first you have to select which model is more appropriate for your particular problem. Then, with that particular problem, how you want to interpret your results with the probabilities, marginal effects, or if it's a logit model, do you want to interpret it with the odds ratio? If it's a multinomial logit, do you want to interpret it with the relative risk ratio? So there are so many n number of things with all these models. So whenever you work in any particular branch of that econometric branch, you have to go through with that all the details. These basic econometric textbooks, at many places in these specific topics, they have written that this is just beyond the scope of this book, because definitely then they need some uh, more chapters to add that particular content and behind process about that. So generally they have written that it's beyond the scope of this book. Although I am trying to give you summarized way of these concepts from standardized textbooks of the econometrics, and it is not the standardized in India but around the globe, like this Kotsianis, Woolridge, uh, Gujarati, GS Madala, then Green. So whatever I feel that this is important in this particular topic, that I try to give you some idea that, okay, at least you have some idea that if you are reading that topic, for beginning you have some content to read. Although in those readings you will find n number of references that for this specific topic, read this particular research paper for this specific topic, and these all the textbooks, they have given n number of references in these econometric branches, like in MLE, then SCM models, dynamic econometric models, panel data models, then time series models. So this is some endless space. No one can define this particular space. After the basic econometrics, these econometric branches have an endless space. So that's depend upon your research question and field in which you are doing any particular research. So at that time, I suggest you take it as only basic for that branch and try to read more about that particular branch. The good thing is that in all the background, in all these backgrounds, there are only few concepts that are going to change here and there. That is the basic econometrics. Like in this, let me give you one example. We are doing dynamic models, right? But in the background, OLS methodology is going. So you know the OLS methodology. So you have some background for this field. Here in the problems again, autocorrelation, covariance is biased, inconsistent. Again, basic econometrics is in the background. Here in this Alman's approach, this R-square criteria, model specification criteria, multicollinearity. Again, the background is from the basic econometrics. So if you can pick any field of econometrics, SCM, MLE, dynamic models, panel data models, dynamic panel data models, time series, then your VOR models, AR models, moving average models, ARIMA models. Pick any field of the econometrics. The background is this OLS methodology, this inferential statistics, how results will change, how this biased and inconsistent results will consequences, problems. Background will remain same for 90% of for 90% of the content, background always will remain same. Other thing, maybe it may be a MLE methodology, like in SEM, in LML method, the MLE is the background. So only these two basic backgrounds you will find in 90% cases in econometric models. So it's not tough, or I would say this something advanced or basic or intermediate. It's just that how systematically we learn that particular topic and that particular branch of the econometrics. And from my experience, the problem with the econometric students when they try to apply the models is that generally where they put their energy is that how we have to run that particular the estimation part and uh, this interpretation part and the software part, that how I have to deal with that particular data in the software. But more than that, the required thing is that theoretical background, that what are the differences and alternative of that particular model that which you are running, and why you are running that particular model, and what are the changes you think if you run another alternative, that what other things you have to consider. That's what you have to take care, and that's more important than this estimation and this interpretation, because if you are not clear about that theoretical background, then there is no point to estimate and put this effort to do this estimation. Nowadays it's with the software, so it's just a minutes and seconds thing that you have just write the command. But let's suppose you are doing some it manually, so don't put all the energy there. Save some energy for the basic background of that model. And that's where we are lacking. Means in all the vivas and all the interviews, that's what I have felt, is that that basic is somewhere missing. We know the estimations because we always put all the efforts in this part, not the background part. So whenever I suggest you, whenever you study these topics later on, make some detailed content and make some your notes, that how you make differentiate those things. Like in these classes I try to differentiate these parts in all the topics, that these are the methods in this particular topic and these are the differences. But let's say I have some limitation, like in a week I'm taking 4 or 5 hours only. Maybe I miss many important points that I'm not able to tell you or describe you, and they are important. So you have to put some efforts. It's just a base, I am telling you. It's not that everything is you have to depend on that. You may say that okay, we did this but we have not covered this thing and this thing. That's always going to be there. It just depends upon you how you are going to learn maximum out of it. Okay, so let's come back to this point. Next, first today I'll do this Alman approach. That's why Tanya I'm saying this is very important, and Nikat again is absent. Okay, so we can't do anything with that. Now in this Alman's approach, first I'll tell you this criteria of length of the lag with the element, that how this Alman approach is answering this problem, so providing solution for this problem of length of lag, and how it putting this incorporating this lag in the model. In Koik approach, yesterday I told you that this particular methodology assumed that lagged impact is declining geometrically. And I told you why geometrically declining. That question is yours. You have to find that answer. I don't know how many of you have tried to look upon that answer, that why we assume in many econometric models that impact is declining geometrically. And these are the examples: partial Stokes adjustment model, adaptive expectation model, rational expectation model, Jorgensen's model, flexible escalator model, Kagan's model, Pascal's. There are so many macroeconomic models where they have, anyhow, they have used Koik approach, and it means in the background they are also uh, agreed with this notion that impact is declining geometrically. So all those models who have applied this Koik approach, they have agreed with this particular statement that impact of lag is declining geometrically. It's not constant. Now I'm moving to another approach, which is not assuming this particular restriction that it's only that the impact will decline geometrically. Now in Alman's approach, it's a different. Okay, so before that, this geometric decline, this is the geometric decline diagram, this quick scheme I have provided, that the current impact is much more than the last year and the previous one. So this decline is geometric, it's not constant. The other approach, which is Alman's approach, they have not assumed any specific form of impact of this lagged values, but in place of that, they have assumed that you can work with any approach. So yeah. Now in Alman's view, it might be any type of impact. It's not necessary that we have only geometric decline impact of the lagged values. It might be increasing and decreasing, might be decreasing then increasing. So any polynomial form. That's what this Alban has in this particular approach. And this is how it is different from the Koik approach. Again, now this thing that this is theoretical thing. If in any particular model, you think that impact of lag is in this particular form, let's say this B diagram, A or B diagram, that first it's increasing and then decreasing. This thing you have to describe theoretically from your background of the model. Because when you are applying this model or anyone is applying, he or she only know that why he or she think that impact is behaving in this particular manner. And she or he have to define that particular, means defend that particular notion. Koik is only the one approach. So this is the another approach, that is the Alman's approach. So in Alman's approach, in place of just in Koik approach, they started with the in Koik approach, all these models. If I'll tell, okay, let me show you first these models. The 3 models that we did yesterday. Koik, adaptive expectation, and partial adjustment. They started with the lag impact of the independent variable, means distributed lag model, but ended with the autoregressive model, means we have a dependent value of, independent variable of a dependent lagged value of dependent variable. So it's autoregressive scheme. So in all these models where we applied the Koik, this is the common thing. And at many places you will read this as, like if you read this particular chapter from Kotsianis, they have described it as endogenous approach, means in this particular process, now we have one endogenous variable in all the models. And Alman's approach they have defined as a exogenous approach, like we are working with the lagged value of the independent variable only, not the dependent variable. That's another difference in these two approaches. But this difference is because of the assumption behind the impact of lag. One is assuming that it's geometrically declining, another is assuming it's not necessary that it geometrically decline, but it may take any other form. So few of these polynomial forms, this Alman's taken into account, and he tried to incorporate these specific behavior of the lagged impact into a model. But again, it's not that only these two methods are right. Now from these two diagrams you can understand that one is, okay, we have a geometrical decline. Another, Alban is saying it may be increasing or decreasing, it may be decreasing then increasing, means some another polynomial form. So there might be another form, let's say exponential, let's say Gompertz curve, cumulative density function, means any type of lag impact may be there. But yes, some reason behind that it's needed, some theoretical reason that why that behavior is there, but possibility is there, right? So I'm just saying that there is a possibility of any behavior. So for simplicity, try to understand these two approaches. Then for other details, you can work with some other approaches, but this Albans approach is such a way that you may handle any other form as well. Let me show you that how it will handle this particular thing. So in Albans approach, let's suppose this is our finite distributor lag model. Now in Albans case, before incorporating this impact of lag, the answer for length of the lag, that how many lag is based upon the R-square criteria. For example, first I am in with the Albans approach. I am taking this first, this second question, length of the lag, that how we decide that how much lag we have to take with Albans approach. In Albans approach, this is a model selection criteria approach. Like in model selection criteria, now I'm taking Albans. Okay. If you add unnecessary lags, for example, you have taken lag till xt minus 9, xt minus 10, means unnecessary lags, then that's the case of inclusion of irrelevant variables. Yes, now just think it like a variable in your model. If you have taken less lag periods as compared to the appropriate one, let's say you have only taken 1 lag, but model required 2 or 3 lags. So that may a problem of exclusion of some significant variable. So in this particular process, the answer is from the model selection criteria. Model specification criteria. Means we have to go with this R-square criteria. That now you can do from both the ways. First, you can take maximum lag length and then try to reduce one by one and just try to see the impact on R-square, and if need some specific test, then AIC and PIC criteria. Other way, start from the first lag, then second, third, and cross-check your R-square, adjusted R-square, and AIC and PIC criteria. Means like we select variables in the model, that same criteria you can use to select the lag length in this Albans approach. Any doubt in this particular part, that how this Albans approach answered this question, that how many lags we have to take into account, and it's a lag of the independent variable. Now we are not taking into account this lag of a dependent variable. That may be, but that depends upon the model. If it's required in the theoretically that we have to take a lag of the dependent variable, then we can take that also. That's not a restriction, but for simplicity, I am just telling that this is the criteria. Means you have to do is that, let's say we have this particular model, inventory and sale data. Let's suppose I have 5 lag periods. Let's just, for generating a lag, you have to write this command. For first lag, let's say we have to generate lag for the sale, independent variable. So just write generate name of the variable. For simplicity, I have written this generate sale underscore 1. That means first lag, then equal to, then command is your variable, and with within a bracket, but this specific bracket only, not the other one, underscore n minus 1 for the first lag. If you want to generate the second lag, then n minus 2, then n minus 3, n minus 4, and so on. Now, let's say I'm starting from the 1 lag and so on. So let's first regression with the 1 lag period only. And then let's see AIC criteria. For that, command is ASTAT, then information criteria, IC. So this is AIC value and this BIC value. If you remember, in AIC and BIC criteria, the model which have a lower AIC and BIC value is better than the other one. So now let's add another lag period. Let's say second lag period. Again, see this AIC criteria. Now compared to the previous one, now AIC and BIC value have declined. So it means model is improving. Then add third lag. Again, this AIC is declining, and so on. So this is the way you have to, till the end, there is some significant change in the AIC and BIC, means there is an improvement. You have to keep adding your lagged variables in the model. Other simple way is that, but that's these restrictive models, hypothesis testing you have to do that. Compared to previous model, in the new model, the change in this explained sum of square. If that explained sum of square is statistically significant, then you have to keep adding that particular lagged value. But in the ad hoc estimation, in this first criteria, it's only this significance, that it's not the R-square criteria, but this coefficient criteria, that, for example, okay, let's take the first one. This is the coefficient, although it's insignificant. Let's say we added another lagged value. Now coefficient is negative and insignificant, so we have to stop with the first coefficient only, is with the ad hoc estimation. But in this elements approach, in this particular criteria, you have to go with this R square criteria. So this AIC, BIC, all these criteria are based upon the R square. This is the difference in these two approaches. So this is the answer to this lagged by Almans. Now, what is the answer by Koik, if you remember? Now I told you the answer, that how many lags you have to take from the Almans approach. But yes, this problem you have to deal, because we are only taking lag of the this x variable. So definitely they are need to be highly correlated, because what is the difference in these lag values is that in first this value becomes start from here, in second it start from here, but although all the values are same, right? So there may be high multicollinearity, so that problem, that thing you have to deal. That what will you do with this multicollinearity problem? That always remain here with this Almans approach. That's maybe the one reason that you will not find so many papers or so many models with Almans approach. This is one of the problem. Although there is no restriction for this lagged impact in Almans approach, but this multicollinearity is the main problem in the Almans approach. For example, in our case, if you see the correlation between sale and sale, lag of this sale, like 99%, means high correlation, multicollinearity problem, right? So this inferential statistics won't work, because standard error will increase and it will decrease the t ratios. So might be chance that we will get insignificant results. Like here you can see all the coefficients are statistically insignificant. If I'll run only inventory and sale, it is statistically significant at 1% level of significance. But while we are running it with the lagged values, it's insignificant. It's just because of this multicollinearity problem. So that's the one big problem with this Alman's approach. I'll come again to this particular point, but yeah, I was asking, what was the answer in the Koike approach to a lag? Ad hoc, now I told you, Almos approach I described you. What is the answer in the Koike approach? How many lags we had to take in Koike approach? Anyone of you want to answer this question? Tanya or Neha? Yesterday we did this Koike approach, right? So how many lags we have to take in Koike approach? With Koike approach? Gagan? Guys, it's just like no, sir, that's ad hoc estimation, not the Koike approach. That's the ad hoc estimation that either it's insignificant or it changed the sign of the coefficients. And then we have to stop. That's the ad hoc estimation criteria. It's not the Koike approach. But at least, sir, you are answering this question. What about others? Tanya or Neha? It's just same like whole Ramayana we have read or watched, but we don't know how Ram is related to Sita. It's something like that. So far, I don't know the reason that is Ikra is present. No, Ikra is again not present. Nivisha, Nishat, Pallavi is also absent. I don't know. Maybe that since we are in PhDs, then we think that okay, why we bothered about other models which are not concerned in our research work. But later on, we all are going to join academics one or the other way, either as a researcher or teacher, faculty, or maybe some other way after research. So there you have to deal with it. Let's say one day you all are supervisors for students and any of your students wants to apply this but any particular of these type of models, let's say, and how you answer that question means then what will you do? You try to avoid that, right? That's what maximum teachers do in state and private universities. They don't allow students to apply those to work in those fields where they are not comfortable, and that's the truth. No one talk about it, but that's the truth. It's a good thing that we work with the specialized fields only, but at least we need some idea about the other branches as well, because they are interconnected, right? And these dynamic models are in a trend these days. Other important thing, no one ever taught us in this particular way that why these things are interconnected, what is in the background, what are the changes if we move from one to another, what are the problems. Means in this particular way I have never come across. There are teachers, but they are rare. So that's the one reason I am putting so much energy to summarize these things so that you can remember these things at least for some little longer time. At least you have some idea after 1 or 2 years that okay, we did it. Means we have some clue, but if we go back and read that particular part, we can answer that. That's the only purpose. It's not that I can make you specialized in this particular branch, or I am not even specialized. There are so many things I have to learn. So Sadiq sir, okay, since you only answered this question, so in this particular approach, in QUIC approach, the answer is that for all the lag length, because we don't know like xt minus 1, t minus 2, 3 minus 3, t minus 4. So how this QUIC is answered this question? Let me give this example. Let's suppose this is our problem that is function of not only xt but all the lag values like xt minus 1, xt minus 2, xt minus 3, xt minus 4, and so on. So if you read this QUIC approach, in the end, after this simple adjustments, with this simple adjustment, you will find in the end in all the models that let's say yt depend upon xt and all the lag values. So yt minus 1 will depend upon xt minus 1 and all the back values, right? So why not we can take yt minus 1, this yt minus 1 in place of all these values. So here in QUIC approach, they have taken yt minus 1. So this lag problem is solved. Is it clear, sir? It's not that we have to put some energy that how many lag we have to take. Simple thing that yt minus 1 depend upon all other previous lags. So just put yt minus 1 here. That automatically take care about all these lag values. That is, I'm telling it indirectly. It's not that directly Elman answered it. Elman first took this notion of geometric decline, and if you do this particular process, for example, this one, let's suppose this is our problem. So we have to take yt minus 1. Then it's not that 100% of yt minus 1 is going to impact this. There is some portion of that part, right? That portion is, let's say it's a lambda. So just subtract this portion from the yt minus 1, take it right hand side. So now this yt minus 1 in place of all the lagged values. But definitely now in this process, there are some other changes like this constant will change. But now you will see for all the lag of x variable, now we have a yt minus 1. So it automatically take care about the all the impact of this. But definitely it's not the 100% like this yt minus 1. This all the lagged values have some impact on this variable, right? So that impact we say as a lambda, some portion of yt minus 1. This is the QUIC answer to lagged problem. I hope now it is clear. Sadiq sir. And this is the answer by Koik to a lag problem. Okay, no sir, you are, thank you, but why not others are responding? I don't know, they are sleeping or what they are doing, but I'm not going to take any of the query regarding this particular part. Okay, so let's move on. Now next thing, this is the Koik approach. So yesterday I told you this is the Koik simple model that you have to run. Then this adaptive expectation model. Again, in this particular model, in the end, you have this similar type of equation with the yt minus 1. Definitely, these coefficients will change because these are a different theoretical models. These equations have some different theoretical thing. After this particular part, again, if you take this partial adjustment, in these all the models, it's not changing, like it's not something new from the methodology part. No, these all the models like this partial adjustment, adaptive expectation, Jorgensen, Kagan's, Pascal's rational expectation models, they are following simple Koik approach, but definitely their equations are different. Yes, Jorgensen's model equation investment function is different, adaptive expectation model is different, so they have a different equations, so definitely coefficients will change. Which one, Neha? 17.1 and 17.65, because in this particular only we are taking a short run impact of this particular form, but in this particular equation now we have all the past impact with this particular variable, so we are considering not only the current impact but the past impact as well. That's why it's a long run impact. Now we have all the impact, not only the current impact but the past impact as well. So now we are considering everything in this particular model. But yes, if you're asking in this specific model, like this demand for money model, that's what I am saying, that these equations and these models, it has nothing to do with the econometrics. You are not getting this point, that these equations differ from one model to another model. Let's say you are working with Jorgensen's model, equation will differ. Let's say you work with Kagan's model, equation will differ. You work with Pascal, again equation, means these equations will change. It has nothing to do with the econometrics. As far as the econometric is concerned, the only two questions we are trying to answer, length of the lag and how we incorporate into it. Now, this particular model, how it incorporated a lag, it's this process that this particular part. This is the way of incorporating a lag by this process. This is for this specific model only. It's nothing to do with the econometrics. It is the theoretical background behind this model. That's why we have this equation for this model. So equations will change. Let's say you are working on some another research question where you are working on some farmers or some other type of dynamic model. So your equation, that how you generate the variable, how you make this, like as yesterday I told you that these are the expected variables. Now how you observe this variable, you define some particular equation for that variable, right? Similarly, for other variable you have some other equation. So that is some theoretical background, and it will change with the equations. That's you don't need to bothered about in this particular process. Maybe in your syllabus you have all these models as well. As I have read your syllabus, you have this partial adjustment, adaptive expectation, Koik approach, Alman's approach. So definitely for exam purpose you have to go with this, because you don't know, they might ask you this in as a objective type question, or some other type of questions. So yes, definitely Neha, it's for you, it's important. But I'm telling you, as far as econometrics is concerned, our concern is that if we have some dynamic variable, then how we can deal with that variable. Now, what's the theory behind that variable? That depends upon the question to question. But I hope now your question is clear in this particular part. It's because of this notion, yes. And that's Neha, that anytime you apply any of the models, we always have to go with that theoretical background. For example, this Jorgensen's model. Then first we have to read the Jorgensen's model's theory, there all the notions behind the equations. Then in the end, when we try to estimate the impacts, then we have to think about the econometric methodology, that okay, this is the Jorgensen's model. Now how we estimate its results with econometrics methodology, means can we apply OLS or not? If it's apply OLS, then if it's a dynamic model, then we have to answer these two questions. That so it may change from one model to another model, means that although I have seen, that's what I am saying, Neha, I have seen in many examinations they ask these type of questions as well, these derivations. But if you really want to check someone that is he or she is able to understand the econometric methodology, then these are not the appropriate questions. Means if let's say this is the your syllabus, I want to ask you the question, I just asked these two questions, right? But now you can cross check your 10 year or question papers you have shared with me. None of your teacher have asked this question in your uh, question papers. And these are the only two questions that were these dynamic chapters are trying to answer, that how we incorporate lag and what are the idea behind that particular methodology. It may be Koik or Elmans, and why we take that notion, and how we handle this question of length of the lag. This is the whole background behind this in all the textbooks in this dynamic econometrics. But when you can I have seen the question papers not in your university, in my Punjab University, many other places. They are not asking these questions. This is just example I'm taking from dynamic model. What they ask like, okay, this is the Koik approach. Explain with the Koik approach this process of this particular thing. Explain this process with the Elman's approach. But is that the main thing that you have to ask? That Elman, let's say we have another approach. Elman answered, then we have some other approach, then we have another. So is it that we ask those approaches, or we want to know that whether students know that what are the differences in these approaches and why these approaches? For me, that's more important, because for applied part, that's what important. Because if you are doing some research, it's for you that you have to decide that which approach you will take. And that answer you only know when you know all these approaches in detail and idea behind these approaches, that why these different type of approaches. But that's the way system is, and I can't change that. Okay, for that, Neha, it's not only in this particular part, means in this particular model, but yes, for MA purpose, you have to read this chapter in detail, because I have seen question from this part, then short run multiplier, long run multiplier, median lag length, mean lag length. These all the questions you have to prepare for exam. That's totally different thing. Preparing for exam is totally a different thing, and that's typical. I can understand that, but still, this econometrics teaching method needs to change. But strongly I believe it needs to change. Otherwise, we lost all the fun in econometrics. Why it's so much boring? This is the reason, that we always deal with the equations only, not the idea behind those equations. Okay, so now I'll take Hellman's approach, how to incorporate it into a model. Yes, one another thing for estimation part. In this, all the approaches except for this ad hoc estimation, in Hellman and Koik, the final equation that we where we apply OLS, The final equations means after adjustment. Like in this Koik approach, in the end, we have this equation with the yt minus 1. We run OLS in these equations. Similarly, in elements, I'll come on elements just in a after this particular point. But purpose is to estimate the coefficients for original equation. It's not our purpose that we need estimate of these equations that we have made after these adjustments like in Koik and L1. Our purpose is to estimate the beta coefficients for the original equation. That extra step we have to do. First, you have to estimate these equations with the OLS methodology, and after that, you have to go back to find original parameters of our equation. For example, let's suppose okay, just take this example. Sivasa, okay. Is it visible to others? Neha, is it visible? Okay, then Siva sir, it might be due to net. Just reconnect again. Okay, I was telling this point. Our original equation is this one, and this is for the practical purpose. Due to defining nature of this particular variable, we have used this equation, and after some adjustments, let's say in the end we are running OLS on this particular equations. So this equation will give us value for 1 minus gamma, gamma beta 1, gamma beta 0. But what actually I need is that these coefficients, right? So this adjustment you have to do. How? First you have to estimate, apply OLS. Then from this particular coefficient in these three models, it's important for you, Neha, because maybe these three models are in your syllabus. So in these equations, but it change with other type of models. Let's say for these type of models which we have in this particular textbook, the coefficient for yt minus 1, whatever coefficient is for the yt minus 1, from here you will get the value of gamma. How? Just write it 1 minus gamma equal to that coefficient, and you will get this value of the gamma. Then divide these coefficients with this gamma, then you will get value for beta 0 and beta 1. And that's the purpose, because in original model we want value for beta 0 and beta 1. So this extra adjustment we have to do in all these methods, not only in the this Koik approach, but in the elements also. So this extra adjustment we have to do after running the OLS. Okay, so now come to this elements approach. Problems I'll come later on for all these two methods, Koik and elements. In this particular case, because elements is not agree with this specific that it's only a geometric decline approach, it may take any notion of the impact of lag. So in Elman's methodology, this is what we have to do, that we have to take into consideration all these different type of impacts of lag. So first you have to theoretically, because when you are applying a model, before applying a model, you don't have any clue that how this lag is impacting. So which notion, let's say you want to take into consideration this particular form, or I want to take into consideration this particular form. So this assumption I have to make before applying this particular methodology. Means this thing is not that after running the model I have to cross check. No, it's before that, because you have to think it in form of some theoretical form. For example, in production functions, they are not constant, increase with the increasing speed, decrease. Then we define that with returns to factor, right? Law of variables, proportions, returns to scale. They are justification for those type of natures of a production function. Similarly, if you are taking any notion of this lagged impact, then you have to first theoretically defend that notion, that why you think or believe that this is the impact of lag in your particular model. That is theoretical part. Okay, so let's suppose now how Elman suggested that for these type of behaviors, how you incorporate that, you have to incorporate in this particular form. Means it's not a simple beta coefficients, but now it's not some linear change in beta, right? It may be quadratic, it may be third degree polynomial. So whatever relation you think is more suitable for you, that equation you have to put here. This first one is this equation, a0 plus a1 I plus a2 I square. This I to k is the lag length. First, then xt minus 1, then second, xt minus 2, then third, xt minus 3, and so on. So now our equation will be this particular equation. This is the equation now which we have to run OLS. Z0, Z1, Z2. But this Z0, Z1, Z2 is first. Now this equation you have to change. Means let's say you want this particular type of behavior, then you have to add this cubic function here. So these functions you have to keep changing. But once you decided that function, that particular notion you have to put into a model. Now your model becomes like this particular model. Z0, now what is Z0? Lag length, then summation. Now this is a summation of your all the lag values. Then 1, then 2. Now I will change here. A simple I, then I square. If you add cube, then it is alpha 3 with Z, Z3. It will keep changing. For example, let me do it with this practical example. It will make you more clarity. Okay, before Elman's approach, as I told you, first thing is you have to decide about the lag length, because in this Z equations, these Z values are summation from 0 to k. This is the lag length. So first you have to decide lag length, that how many lags you have to take into account. Second, this behavior. So these two decisions you have to take before applying this Elman's model, means running this Elman's model, this particular model. For lag, I told you this ASE and R square criteria, then you have to think that, okay, this is how many lags I have to take. And this particular criteria, theoretical notion, like for this geometrical decline, there is some theoretical reason behind that. As yesterday I told you, it might be technical reason, like in investment, partial adjustment model. It might be some technical reason. It might be some behavioral reason, but means some theoretical notion is behind that. Similarly, in this Elman's approach, for this different type of behaviors, we have to defend that theoretically. Let's say we are running a model for this type of lag impact, and from R square criteria we know that we have to take lag length till xt minus 3. Is it okay? That first from the AIC, BIC criteria and R-square criteria, we selected a lag length that we have to take a lag till xt minus 3, and we are satisfied with this particular notion that okay, lag impact is this quadratic form, so we have to take this particular part into a consideration. Now we need Z0, Z1 and Z2 values to run this model. Now what these values are? Okay, first just take this example. The sale and inventory example. If it's a 3, lag length is 3, then Z0 is xt plus xt minus 1 plus xt minus 2 and xt minus 3. So this is the value of A0. Then Z1. Okay, just see these three equations. Anyone have any doubt? These three equations are for these three terms in the that you have added. A0, A1 and A2. A0 is without I coefficient, A1 is with the I coefficient, A2 is with the I square coefficient. So A0 without any I coefficient, so we have to only add all these values from 0 to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So first we have to make this Z0t variable. So you have to make generate, let's say I'm telling it Z0 equal to xt plus xt minus 1 plus xt minus 2 plus xt minus 3. This lag length we have decided already. Keep it, remember, lag. That's why I am just taking it to counter 3 lakhs. Entered. Now Z0 variable is created. This is Z0. Then next is Z1. Now in Z1, the I coefficient value we have to put. So for first, what is the I value? Z1 is summation of k I0 equal to 0 to k lag length of this xt minus I into I coefficient. Z0 xt minus I is still the lag length, summation of all the lags. Here there is no I coefficient, so its summation is, first you have to put this I0, so it is xt, then plus xt minus I value 1, then plus xt minus I value 2 plus xt minus I value 3, because we have decided that we have to take lag from 0 to 3. So this is our Z0. Z1 is with the I coefficient, so it is, in first case, xt minus 0, but I coefficient is 0. So it will cancel out, right? So it is start with xt minus 1, 1 into xt minus 1, then 2 into xt minus 2 plus 3 into x3 minus 3. And we already decided that we have to take a Lagrange till 3. So this value is for the z1. For z2, summation iota 0 to 3. Now I square, because we have assumed that for a quadratic function, beta coefficient is in form of a0 plus a1 iota plus a2 iota square. So first equation is for all a zeros, second is for I part, third is for I square. So if you add this, let's say you want to add this I cube, then you have to add here z3 as well. So for this particular part, sorry, xt minus I. So first, again it's 0, so it will cancel 0. Then it will start with 1 square is 1, so xt minus 1, 1 into 1 plus 2 square, 4 xt minus 2 plus 3 square, 9 xt minus 3. These are the three variables first we have to create. So these are the three variables that we have to create before running a OLS. So z0 we have created. Similarly, we have to create z1, that is xt minus 1, 2xt minus 2, and 3xt minus 3. Enter. So now you have a value for z1. Similarly, you have to create z2. Now we have these three variables. So we have to run a OLS on this particular variables. So let's say we run a OLS regress. Inventory to now not on this original x variables, but this z0, z1, and z2. But as I told you, the original purpose is we need original coefficients, right? Yes, we have this equation coefficients, but we need original coefficients. So for that, you have to do these changes. For example, for beta 0 is equal to a0. So the coefficient of z0 is the beta coefficient. Beta 1 is a0, a1, a2, means all these three coefficients. So in regression equation, we have all the three coefficients, right? So we have beta 1 as well. For beta 2, a0, 2a1, then 4a2. So we have a0, a1, a2. So we can calculate all the coefficients. So these coefficients you have to, in the end, you have to calculate after running this Hellman's approach, models with the Hellman's approach. Let's say they have entered this, and these are the z coefficients. They are a0, a1, and a2. But we need beta 0, beta 1, and beta 2, and beta 3. So this is how you have to run this Hellman's approach. Okay, first, any doubt in this particular approach? Then I'll discuss few important things with concerned with this particular, that what is the criteria, that is it that we can take I value for I more than the lag length, or what are the problems with this method? The problem I told you, the main problem is multicollinearity. because you can see now after running this z variables, more or less all are this insignificant because of multicollinearity. So you have to think about it, that whether you can apply this method or not. And second, this criteria, that lag. For lag, I told you you have to take R square criteria, model specification criteria. And for this uh, quadratic function or other polynomial function, that you have to see with the pattern, that which pattern you think is more appropriate for your particular model. Accordingly, you have to select the equation. And only one principle here is that you have to take into consideration is that having specified the lag length, we must also specify the degree of polynomial m. Generally, the degree of polynomial should be at least one or more than the number of turning points in the curve. This figure A is the only one turning point, hence the second degree polynomial is good approximations. One may not know the number of turning points, and therefore the choice of m is largely subjective. However, theory may suggest a particular shape in some cases. So that's what you have to get some idea from the theory, that which particular polynomial form is more appropriate. So this is Elman's approach, that how they have incorporated lags into a model and answer for the length of the lag. But there is a problem of multicollinearity with this particular approach, and that you have to deal with. Any doubt in Elman's approach? Neha, is it clear, this Elman's approach? After this, if you read this part from the book, it will give you more clarity. But at least now you have some idea that how they have answered the question for length of the lag and this particular point, incorporating into a model. Okay, thank you. So these are the, this is the Elman's approach. Now we remain with the problems. Like if we have an Elman's approach, the problem is of the multicollinearity. If we apply Koik approach, there may be autocorrelation or covariance, which may create biased and inconsistent results. So now these two things you have to deal with, that how you deal with multicollinearity. One of the answer in the Koik's approach to deal with these problems is instrumental variable. That you have to select some, like for lagged problem in all the models, like in these all the models. In these all the models, this yt minus 1 is creating a problem. It may be correlated with this residual term, and that may create a problem of biased results. Second, this residual term, like in this particular model, this vt, and in these models, it may be have a autocorrelation. Again, the problem is with the standard error and all. So one of the solution for this problem is that instrumental variable, that select some variable in place of this yt minus 1, which is highly correlated with this yt minus 1 but not correlated with this residual term. That sort out your problem of biasness. Then the question is that how we find that particular variable, that which is uncorrelated with the residual and highly correlated, means we need some other variable in place of this yt minus 1. That is instrumental variable solution for this particular problem. So there are many
answers to this particular instrumental variable, but the most common answers are either you can take for yt minus 1, means we need an instrument variable for yt minus 1. It is the first thing, because this yt minus 1 is creating a problem. It is its covariance is not 0. It's correlated with this residual term, and this residual term have a autocorrelation. These two problems. Neha, for you, maybe you need this derivation. It's given in for covariance. This autocorrelation, it's given here that it's not 0. There is a covariance, and for this biased results and this covariance, it's given in the Korchani textbook and in Johnston. So in Johnston, yeah, Johnston textbook is also quite good. Though I have missed that particular to give you references, but yes, at many places Johnston is also useful textbook. So these derivations are given there, and they are quite easy. Just you have to do some adjustments in the equations. You can get that point. So the answer is that you have to take a instrumental variable. So in most of the textbooks, they have suggested that in place of yt minus 1, mostly they are agreed that you can take xt minus 1. Because maybe there, if yt is dependent upon xt, then xt minus 1 depend upon xt minus 1. So you can take xt minus 1. But at many places, Kortsianis has suggested that in place of yt minus 1, you have to take yt hat minus 1. That first you have to run this yt minus 1 on the x variable, all the x variables, and that predicted variable you have to take as a proxy variable, use as an instrumental variable, because this xt minus 1, there is no reason behind that it may correlate with the residual term. So definitely in the large samples, your results are unbiased, not biased. So that's the answer for this particular autocorrelation and covariance problems, that you have to pick some instrumental variable. In practical term, in theoretical term, I would say आपको ऐसा वेरिएबल ढूंढना है जो उस इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल से तो हाईली कोरिलेटेड होगा, बट रेसिडुअल से नहीं होगा. वो कोई भी प्रॉक्सी वेरिएबल, लेट्स से फॉर इनकम वेल्थ इज द प्रॉक्सी वेरिएबल. मतलब आप कोई भी वेरिएबल ढूंढ सकते हो, बट अगर आप इफ यू हैव टू पिक इन द लैग फॉर्म ओनली, देन this xt minus 1 and y hat t minus 1, these two solutions these textbooks have suggested, Johnston, Kortsianis and Gujarati. This is the solution. For multicollinearity, so far there is no solution. Generally for multicollinearity, the answer in multicollinearity chapter, you find that we have to add the data, variation in the data, or we may exclude that particular variable. So these are the common answers you will get in the multicollinearity chapters, that what is the solution for multicollinearity. I prefer to add a more variation, but if it's a time series and you don't have so much data, means only a data for small interval, then this problem is, it's really hard to sort out this problem. That's the one reason many have not adopted Almond's approach, but they have, like in these all the models, partial adjustment and all, they have adopted a Koik approach. But if you still have a problem of covariance and all, then need a one instrument variable for that particular problem. So this is basic dynamic models, AR and distributed lag model. But as I told you, these branches are endless. The more you learn, the more you read, the more you learn, and then you have more questions, more curiosity to know more type of models. So other major field of this model is DSG, as I told you. So if you have some basic idea now about this dynamic, after reading and doing some practice with these equations and this data software, some models and examples, then you can understand, even you can start putting some effort to DSG models as well, although they're quite tricky and difficult, but at least you can get some notion. They are from this particular field only, so you have some notion about that. Only difference is that it's totally different methodology, stochastic methodology that generally we use in production functions like in Transclog and stochastic production frontier type of functions where efficiency you measure from the residual part because you don't have some variable to measure that, so you measure that from the residual part. That same type of notion with the dynamic models. Now we have a DSGE models. Okay, so thank you so much for this model. Now, as I told you, now these fields are open to you. You have to read and learn more and more. Definitely have more queries and questions. By the series one by one, I'm trying to add the content. Maybe next time I'll add some other models as well, other examples as well. But that's the process, is one by one. Okay, so thank you so much. Now next I'll start some basic panel data models. Any question from this particular part?